Then the two women sent to Batu Khan, saying that Ogul Gaimish, the widow of the dead Khakan, would now rule, but they wished Batu to come to them to advise them. The sane Khan replied that he was resting his horses by the lake, and my foot pains me, he added, so I may not ride. Seer Kuktiti, more adroit than they, seized the opportunity. Batu Khan, she told Mangu, has lived long. He is indeed the Aga of the grandsons of Genghis Khan, and in the Kurilatai no created being will turn aside from his word. Now that the others will not go into Batu, though he be the lord of them all and suffers from his ailment, go thou to him as one inquiring of his health. Whereupon Mangu and his younger brother Kublai rode up from their sands over the pass to the lake. With them they took their household officers. The Sain Khan greeted Mangu warmly. Had they not shared victories together for a few years before, had not Mangu's mother sent him timely warning, he made a feast for the younger princes and praised them. There followed a pretty play of politics with true Mongol caution. First Batu sent couriers to the women's camp in the Gobi, saying that now Mangu and Kublai were at his camp. The other grandsons should come, and a Kurilatai be held there. Turakina and Ogul Gaimish replied that it was not the custom to hold a Kurilatai except in the homeland of the Mongols by the waters of the Kerulan. Meanwhile, Ogul Gaimish must be regent. They claimed their rights by tribal law, and the elder Mongols in both camps assented. Batu was in a fair way to put himself in the wrong, but at this point, Seer Kuktiti took the initiative without hesitation or mercy. The 4 sons of Genghis Khan, she announced, remained no longer on the earth. Is not the Sain Khan lord of grandsons? Is he not revered and much honored? Who has the right to turn aside from his word at this time? Both Turakina and Ogul Gaimish had the right, as they well knew, but they were dowager and regent of all the Mongol clans, and these same clans had sworn an oath not to be broken, that they would obey the House of Ogidai so long as a morsel of its flesh remained. Seer Kuktiti did not argue. She had Batu and the West to support her, and she was popular with the home army of the Khakans. Did not the great ancestor say, she demanded, that if the descendants of Ogidai should prove unworthy, someone will be found to take the throne? And we see the same thing with the Muslim majority empires sort of happened, is that while they kept their capital, one of the same principles, while they kept their capital as Medina Nabi, the city of the Prophet, formerly known as Yathrib, it caused problems to move to Kufa and Damascus and various other places. And they were told that this would be an issue, so. And also the thing, if they proved unworthy, other people to rule over them. She knew the danger of a delay, and she must have known that an election held in the homeland would be decided by Mongol tradition and would go against her. She wanted the election now in the armed camps of mid-Asia, and she understood perfectly that Batu, the dweller in the west, the son of a bastard, could never hope to be named Khakan, while the aged Turakina struggled with jealousy and anger, and Ogul Gaimish, less clever than Seer Kuktiti, consulted shamans. The mother of Mangu acted. She mustered her household troops and Caphaean counselors and rode up from the Gobi to the mountain pass. 2 of Chagatais' sons followed her. Now she had the greater part of the 2 armies with her, and she sent back word that Kurultai would be held in Batu's camp by the Lake of the Eagles. When she dismounted at Batu's tents, the Lord of Europe greeted her with appreciation. "I see in Mangu, thy son," he said, "the signs of maturity and power. He has the training and experience to be Khan." For these words and this opportunity, Seer Kuktiti had waited 19 years. Both Mangu and Kublai were fitted to rule because she had schooled them remorselessly with the patience of a steppe woman to take themselves in the course of years the heritage that had been denied her drunken husband. Tului, she had won in the conflict with her rival, Turakina, and the superstitious Ogul Gaimish. Her enemies understood that she had won. Turakina sent envoys to Batu's tents to represent the House of Ogidai, saying, "Batu is lord of the princes, and his command is binding upon them, and none shall turn aside from his counsel." And the 2 widows started their return journey to Kara Kurum, bearing Kuyuk's body with them. Turakina's last gesture had been shrewd, and the final decision of the Kurultai remained in doubt, for Batu was now torn between his loyalty to the memory of Genghis Khan and the salutation of Seer Kuktiti. Once the Kurultai was seated in Batu's pavilion, the possibility of armed conflict ceased. The princes and Noyans had come as his guests, and they were free to make their decision as they judged best. No one of the House of Ogidai sat in the assemblage, nor had Kaidu consented to come. Batu presided, but refrained for a while from speaking. Mangu also was silent. Many of the older chieftains resented Kuyuk's arbitrary act in taking away their family dominions. They had no longer felt blindly devoted to the reigning house of Ogidai, but they were all steadfast in their loyalty to the Yasa of Genghis Khan and to Mongol custom. Old Ilchadai, the Jalayir chieftain, put forward the claim of the House of Ogidai bluntly. 20 years before, he said, they had pledged themselves never to elect a Khakan who was not of Ogidai's line, while a morsel of flesh of the family remained. Batu did not answer him. Kublai, now a mature man, took the word. "As thou hast said, we did," he answered, "but the descendants of Ogidai were the first to go against the will of Ogidai, for they raised Kuyuk to the throne when Ogidai had chosen the boy Shiramun for his successor." Then the chieftains of Ogidai's side argued, "Let the boy Shiramun be named now, as was most fitting. To this Mangusar, a general who had served under Tului, objected grimly. "The work of the Khanate is not for a child's hands. The work of the Khanate was the labor of war, and a man able to lead in war must be selected." He named Batu as the eldest of the surviving princes. Then Batu spoke. Sitting at the head of the lines of the attentive men, he talked to them thoughtfully, reminding them of Mongol tradition and the Yasa that was their final law. He refused to let his name be put forward. Among the princes, he said, "It is Mangu who has experience to become our Khan. He has seen much of good and evil. Many times he has led the armies to war. Great was his dignity and severity of bearing in the eyes of Ogidai, for the Khakan sent him with me and my Uruk toward the Kipchak and the countries beyond, and we conquered them. It was Mangu who broke the strength of the Kipchaks and the Circassians and turned their countries into a grazing land for us. It was his hand that made captive the chieftain of the Volga." And Batu retold the tale of Mangu's victories, his eyes on the elder chieftains. After that, in the year of the ox, Ogidai Khakan sent out his Yarlig that the princes return, and when they reached there, the Khakan had died, and the Yarlig then decreed that his son's son, Shiramun, should be his heritor. Again, Batu reminded his opponents of their mistake, yet Turakina Khatun changed his command, nor did she heed it, and she set up Kuyuk as our head. Skillfully he reminded them of the nomad's law. By command of the Yasa and the custom of the Mongols, the heritage of the father falls to the youngest son, so the heritage of the Khanate should fall to Tului, the keeper of the hearth, my good uncle, and the son of Tului is Mangu. Out of the family of Genghis Khan, what other grandson is there who, with a clear mind and wisdom, can lay his hand upon the land and the army? In ability he stands out from the other princes. At this time he is most worthy of the Khanate. When Batu ceased speaking, no one raised a voice against him, whereupon he commanded that the feasting begin. And he wrote to the great ladies of the house of Genghis Khan, the one who has seen the Yasa and the Yarlig of Genghis Khan with his eyes and heard them with his ears is Mangu. It is for the good of the army and the people, Ulus, and us who are princes, that we make him Khan. At first, as the custom was, Mangu refused. While the feasting went on, Kublai spoke to him persuasively. The younger brother had set his heart on the election of the taciturn Mangu, and another cried out to the assemblage, "We have all given the binding of our word to agree to the will of the Sign Khan Batu, but how then does Mangu alone refuse? Is he not to keep his word?" And Mangu consented to serve the Mongols as their Khan. And so the House of Genghis Khan is our interlude, right? Borjadun, traditional, and the ancestors. Then Yistakai, Oyalin, Yaki. Then Temayin, Bortai, Genghis Khan, and from him you have Juchi, Chagatai, Ogidai, Tului, and we're talking very specific about Ogidai, Turakina, whose mother was Turakina, Emma's mother, okay, and Kuyuk, whose mother was Ogul, Gaimish, and Kadan was his other son, and Kaidu, I guess, continues that. So the house of Chagatai, the house of Ogidai, Chagatai Khans. Okay. So these through there. Chagatai, Baidar, and Buri. Later. Juchi, Batu, and Burkai. Sartak from Batu was continued. So that was the Golden Horde. Genghis Khan and his descendants from 1200 of the Common Era to approximately 1300 of the Common Era. The names of the first wives of the Khans are given in italics. Only the names of people mentioned in this book are given in the table. The great Khans are shown in large letters. Those who came to head individual nations are empires in medium letters. And so from Tului, whose mother was Siyur Kuktiti, we're still hearing of this thus far, and what we see here, Mangu, Kublai, Hulagu, and Arkbuka. So Mangu, whose mother was Kutuktai, I guess each of these four were Khans, weren't they? So whose mother was Jamui, from him was Chingkim and Timur. And so the house of Kublai, the Yuan dynasty of China, and the house of Hulagu, the Ilkhans of Persia. Hulagu, whose mother was Dokuz, from him Abaka, and from him Argun, and then Arkbuka is the other side there. There remained the coronation. Batu ordered that strong armies should go with Mangu and Kublai to Karakorum, while he sent invitations to the blood kin to come to the seating of Mangu. This thing, he wrote, has been done in such a way that cannot be undone. Had any other than Mangu been named, the work of the Khanate would have suffered, and if the sons of the family will think about it and cast their eyes into the future, they will understand that the rule has passed from the line of the former Khakan, for the work of the Khanate cannot be done with the small strength that lies in the arms of children. Still, the members of the House of Ogidai would not come to the ceremony. Riders passed over the steppe roads between the tent cities, and the heads of the clans sat down to discuss the situation with the princes by the night fires, for the steppes were troubled with uncertainty. The almost empty palaces of Karakorum, the widow Ogul Gaimish called in her conjurers and wrote out hasty orders for great sums of money from the Muslim merchants. There was whispering and argument against Mangu, but no one came forward with a just word to say against him. Batu retired to his beloved Russia, his gout apparently ceasing to trouble him, and Señor Kuktiti, dreading delay, sent a message to Batu. For 2 years we have sought to seat Mangu upon the throne, yet the children of Kuyuk and Chagatai have not come. Set him on the throne, Batu wrote, and take head from any living being who turns aside from the Yasa. Take the head. Okay. Well, I don't believe in beheading off the battlefield, but, you know, the Mongols were definitely a people that were cool with that. The end of the House of Ogidai. As anxious as any hostess, Señor Kuktiti arranged the last details of the ceremony, making gifts to the guests who dismounted at the imperial camp. On the day itself, she set the stage for the Kurultai. She consulted astrologers, worried because black storm clouds hid the sky in the early morning, but the sun came out at the hour of the ceremony. Now, you know, again, since I'm not recommending that, but the people, the lethal injection is a worse way to go. Electrocution can be a worse way to go than a beheading. I mean, in terms of the fear and pain the person experiencing. So I don't know why they say, "Oh, that's the extreme way. Let's figure out a way where people die for hours or you know, minutes or something." You know. Deftly, she arranged the seating of the Mongols, putting Birkai, Batu's brother, who limped with the family gout, upon comfortable cushions, and she made certain that her younger son, Kublai, would be noticed. She made him sit before Birkai, that all should hear the speech of Kublai. Yeah, timing things with, you know, the Mongol religion, like a lot of them timed things and stuff that went on in the sky. Now, most cultures, the astrology, you could call it, only really regards the watches of the day and nights and the cycles of the moon. But back in the day, that's why you consulted an expert, as you wanted a little bit more than that in your display. But do you put your beliefs in the stars, or do you believe in the patterns of the stars? That's the difference, you know. And when I talk about astrology, I'm not recommending that, you know, you say that this is because of this and that, and, you know, certain gravitational forces and stuff. Yeah, but not what most people mean by astrology. Mangu she placed at the entrance to welcome his guest, and Hulagu, the third brother, she put by the table to see that no one spoke or made answer in unlawful words. Then, hidden behind a curtain, she watched while Mangu was led to his throne seat. It was the fulfillment of her desire, the sublimation of her 4 sons with Mangu, the head of the house of Tului, the Khakan. When Mangu spoke to the princes and Noyans who stood massed below him, their girdles thrown over their shoulders, he spoke in a fashion that surprised them. "I would like," the quiet man said, "to have rest, settle down on all kinds of life. It is my yarlig that on this day no creature lay a burden on another. They shall all find pleasure in it and have goodly things to share, like the domestic animals, Be free today of their riders and their packs. Let them be unbound. Make no blood run from animals that are to be eaten, and game, the feathered kind, or the grazing kind, shall be safe from nets and arrows. Birds can fly where they will. The elder Mongols thought that this was a mild speech from a Khakan while they feasted in a pavilion of cloth of gold, a gift from the old Yelvad to the new Khakan, with wagon loads of wine and mare's milk. Trundling up to the entrance, a shadow crept over the feast. A mule driver appeared, begging to speak to the new Khakan. This man said he had been searching for a wandering mule when he fell in with a company of riders escorting loaded carts towards the Coronation. A boy of the company had asked the mule driver to help him repair a broken cart, and the man had noticed that the cart was filled with weapons. The others, he discovered, were loaded in the same way, and he heard that the riders had come at orders of the princes of the House of Ogidai to kill Mangu and the feasters when they had drunk too much at the Coronation. Mangu and the others did not pay much attention to this harangue, but the mule driver stuck to his story. He had come 3 days' journey in a day to warn the Khakan. Then Mangu ordered the old general Mangusar to bring in the riders with the carts. When these arrived at the feast, they were welcomed. Mangu, undisturbed, asked them to sit down with his people. He told them the story of the mule drivers. Such talk, he said, is not easy to be believed, yet it is needful that no suspicion lie upon you, for suspicion does not die away with time, it grows. So if you are blameless, those who have spoken against you will be heavily punished. Under such direct questioning, the Noyons of the House of Ogidai could not deny that there had been a plot against Mangu. Ogul, Gaimish, and the mother of Shiramun, the boy who had been named Khakan by Ogidai, were calling upon the princes and Noyons to hold their oath of fidelity to the House of Ogidai. Mangu considered the problem. His officers who had been caught with the weapons had struck no blow. They had told the truth. In what way were they guilty? He decided to let them go when he noticed old Yelvad standing at the back of the pavilion, saying nothing. "Why don't you speak?" he asked irritably. "What can I say in this place?" Yelvad responded. "If the Khakan will be pleased to come with me to my garden, I can show him how such a garden is cultivated. I will pull up for him the tough, strong trees with the deepest roots, and I will plant young and weak cutlings." Again, Mangu considered understanding the parable. He ordered the officers to be put to death, their sons to be appointed to their places. Swiftly and inexorably, he dealt with the conspiracy, stepping aside himself to let the old general Mangusar administer the family purge. He had Ogul, Gaimish, and the mother of Shiramun taken and brought to Sirt Kuktiti's camp, and his mother showed the captive women no mercy. She ordered the hands of Kuyuk's widow to be sewn into a leather sack, and she called in Mangusar to judge her. The Mongol general had Ogul Gaimish stripped naked and accused her of sorcery. They keep doing that one, don't they? "How can you look on a body," she cried defiantly, "that none but a king has seen?" Mangusar had her twisted into felt clothes and flung into water to drown. The shamans who had served her and the mother of Shiramun went the same way. Well, if you're hiring the shamans, if you're hiring the sorcerers, you're, along with them, but killing people because of a difference in religion is not right. How could that evil woman, viler than a female dog? Mangu said of her later to the envoy of Louis of France, know the ways of war and peace, how could she settle the great world in quiet? Now, I know that's the right usage of that word. I just, think it's better, lest there's a misunderstanding that I render that. Mangu's armed searchers hunted down the members of the rival family. Chinkai, the aged Christian Uyghur, their minister, was put to death. Buri, their friend, was seized and sent to Batu, who nourished an old grudge against him. Brought into the presence of the Sign Khan, Buri explained moodily, "I was drunk when I called you, an old woman." "You remember too well," Batu retorted, "the words you spoke when you were drunk." And he had Buri put to death. Messengers of the Khakan found Kadan, Buri's companion, in command during the European campaign, alone in his camp. "My friends have all gone," he said to the messengers. "Now my turn comes." He was removed from his people to a grazing land far from Karakorum. The youthful Shiramun was given to the care of Kublai, who asked for him and took him off in safety toward China. Only Kaidu escaped the taint of conspiracy, because no one wanted to accuse the hero of Hungary. Lands on the river Emil, remote from the Mongol homeland, were allotted to him. This young scion of war rode off without protest to exile, but he nourished an anger that would never leave him. The scattering of the House of Ogidai was done in the year of the pig in 1251, nearly twice through the cycle of the years of the 12 beasts since the crowning of Ogidai. And the next year, Siyurkuktiti, the mother of Mangu, and Kublai died of sickness. Mangu, the Taciturn, bestowed on his mother at her grave the title of Empress, and she was buried beside Tului near the grave of Genghis Khan in the valley beneath the Mountain of Power. She was the wisest woman in the world, Rashid said. She watched over her children until the time when the empire came to the hands of the Mangu by her skillful management. Although she supported the Christian people, she exerted herself greatly in gifts and bounties to Islam. Such was her way until the year of the mouse, and God the All-Wise knoweth best. For Siyurkuktiti had wanted her sons to be educated to learn wisdom so that they should no longer be nomads. Mangu had learned in the school of war she was able to crush the enemies of the family like Borjagun of old, and Kublai had been Siyurktiti's favorite. She had seen in him the wise, calm soul that can pass through struggle undisturbed, and Kublai had his mother's taste for finery, because secretly she had longed to behold her sons in splendor, like the ancient head of her house, who had been called Prester John of Asia. Siyurkuktiti's overthrow of the House of Ogidai had broken the highest Mongol law, the Yasa. It had divided the Golden Family, and this feud between the House of Ogidai and the House of Tului was destined to last for generations, although for the time being it was quashed by Mangu's firm action. In the future, by a strange road, it would form a new Asia, because a subtle change was taking place in the Mongol thought. The nomads who had looked up to the four sons of Genghis Khan as the four pillars who had shared the conquests peaceably between them, now only Mangu and Batu reigned in the east and the west as co-emperors. In the minds of the Mongols, the Soldi of Genghis Khan, the shadowy ancestress, the Blue Wolf, and the ancestral Borjagun clan were losing substance. The great battle standard still stood in the homeland by the Mountain of Power, and the banners of the army were more numerous than before. The elder men still chanted their traditions, but with Mangu's ascendancy, a new intelligence appeared to direct the Mongol world. In him, tribal tradition struggled with the wisdom he had been taught. He replied upon reason rather than force. Mangu was the fruit of Yeliu Chutzai's long labor, and in him the Cathayan triumphed over Genghis Khan. And we see this in some majority areas too, is that the idea was that truth has been, what's the Quran say? Truth has been made distinct from falsehood, so no compulsion of religion. I mean, that's not the right order of that passage, but that same principle.